Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your transfer deadline day, Manchester United transfer news. And I suppose what we're looking at this morning is can Manchester United do business in 12 hours? And it looks like the honest answer is going to be it's all or nothing on Tel. Last night it was over. This morning it could be back on again. A few updates to bring you in on that one. Got a tickly cough this morning. Anyway, look, is there a potential for us to do anything else? The Malacia is still at Manchester United. Casemiro is still at Manchester United. I don't think Casemiro is going anywhere. I think that is something that I would like to discuss this morning. Jacob, seriously, you've got a members badge. Can you shut up about the volume? It's so bloody boring, and sometimes it actually is important to people that they want to watch a stream without people talking about the bloody volume. I'll ban the word. We're trying to talk about stuff here. So here we go. I want to talk about Casemiro a little bit in depth in a little bit later in the show, because I do think that there is a big conversation to be had around how we have dealt with this transfer window. Obviously, Marcus Rashford is now an Aston Villa player. Man United have tweeted that out. That has happened, of course. But where we are with Tel is this morning. Let me give you the latest, because there was a point at the end of the game last night where I think we thought we were getting him. Then on the evening show last night, it didn't look like we were getting him at all. So where are we at the moment? Well, breaking news from Pletigol. Nkunku will stay at Chelsea. He won't be joining Manchester United. So scrub that one off. And I'm just wondering if in this transfer deadline day, we're going to go where we went with Igalo all those years ago, where it was Rondon at lunchtime, it was Joshua King in the afternoon, and then it was Igalo in the evening. So I hope we're not going to go down that road, because that's desperation, and where we are as a team is desperate at the moment as well when you look at what's going on the field. So Nkunku will not be joining Manchester United. That one is gone. That's been confirmed this morning by Pletigol. Manchester United want a pure loan for Tel and remain interested if that becomes available. These are direct quotes from Pletigol. He says, maybe Manchester United will re-enter the negotiations with Tel, but for now, he remains a Bayern player. I cannot tell you, see what he's done there, I cannot tell you how this story will end. Mathys Tel is waiting by the phone, says Pete Hall in the iPaper. A loan move for Tel is Manchester United's most realistic chance of bolstering their forward options before the transfer deadline day. And that is effectively the latest around Tel at the moment. Fabrizio Romano has been very quiet. David Ornstein's been very quiet on this. With Nkunku out of the picture and Man United putting it out that last night that they feel quite relaxed or calm about their transfer window, I'd say if you want a percentage, you could go as high as 80% that we're not going to do anything. But the transfer window does remain open for a few more hours. João Felix has been mentioned. Leon Bailey has been mentioned. I think that moves will be attempted by many clubs, Arsenal, Chelsea. That could put some sort of domino effect into place. But I think I'd repeat what I said on the show last night. Whatever we do now, if we don't do the Tel deal, it is just desperation. And something's better than nothing, but it is just repetitive and very similar to things we've done in the past. I've mentioned Igalo, let's mention Weghorst as well. We just seem to be in this situation every bloody year when we actually do anything. And it's not, I can't overemphasize this enough. It is not a surprise that the January transfer window starts in January and ends at the end of January or the 3rd of February. Like, this is signposted. Everybody knows it's here. And yet every time we try and do anything, we always end up in this position where we're like shocked by it. So I am disappointed. I think with the Tel deal, keep an eye on it. What we understand is that Man United did do quite a lot around the Tel deal. So whilst there'll be a lot of people quite rightly saying there's no way that this club can do any deal in 12 hours, what we'll say about the Tel deal is that we had done a lot of work on it already. The fact is that Tel chose to come to us yesterday, then Bayern Munich sort of moved the goalpost or were never open to doing a loan deal. which is their right. They've got him under contract. Like, they don't have to do a loan deal. So I think unless that's going to change today, and I think Bayern Munich's parameters are, if you want him on loan, they want an obligation to buy for a very high price. And I think Man United are very much of the opinion that this is a young player that might not work out. So financially, you know what, I'm sort of talking myself out of this. I just don't think we're going to do it, are we? When you think about it, Bayern Munich are saying you can have him on loan with an obligation to buy for 60 million quid. And United will be looking at it going, what if he's not very good and we're stuck with him? So I think that's probably what they're sort of looking at. But it surprises me that United's response to moving out Antony and Rashford was a loan deal for a 19-year-old from Bayern Munich. I'm quite surprised about that, I've got to be honest. Sticks says, we have the players. I love the formation. Why do you play defensive wing-backs? Mind-blowing. Garnacho and Ahmad wing-back. Watch the change. Yeah, I think we defend a lot. Lucas says, did you see what Santan Dave said? No. And let us know what that is. And Tom Grant says, ploy by United for Bayern to negotiate. Let's see, says Tom. I think that Dale says, I think it could be João Felix. I think that I do agree with Tom Grant. I think if we're going to do anything, it will be Tel, and if we don't do Tel, we won't do anything. And there is an element that I'm sure some people would agree with that, because you don't want to do anything desperate. But then I sort of look at the Europa League and the priority of that, and I think, well, hello, that's quite an important thing for us to try and win. I'd rather do something than nothing. But what can you do on the last day of the window? It's going to be desperate, and I think we've probably left it too late, to be honest with you. So I'm hoping that something can be resurrected with the Tel deal, but it's certainly not off. I think last night there was a lot of people saying it was off. The thing with these things is they can be back on very, very quickly. I don't really know whether other clubs are looking at doing anything with him as well, but apparently he's chosen Manchester United. Manchester United is where he wants to be. So I would hope that there is something that can be done there. But other than that, I think in the wider transfer window, the only thing I can think is that maybe we'll do something on outgoings. I mean, Malacia's Benfica deal fell through. Surely we're looking to do something around that, because he's not going to play a lot of football, is he, with Dorgu coming in? Or maybe the injury to Martinez makes us keep him, because we're thinking, well, we might have to play one of our left backs more centrally now. So maybe Malacia doesn't go now. I think that Casemiro, to me, is just a massive failure on the part of Manchester United. I mean, I saw a clip yesterday of Casemiro talking to Collier ahead of the game, like giving him advice and stuff like that. And I was like, Casemiro is clearly turning up to training. He is clearly putting an effort in training. And he's clearly not good enough for a team that's not good enough. And I think that's almost worse than the Rashford situation. At least with Rashford, we know that whatever people think about Rashford, if he'd have turned up to training and worked really hard, Amorim would have used him. So it's almost worse that we know the reason that Rashford didn't get picked is because there was a fallout with Amorim. But with Casemiro, there isn't a fallout. He does put him on the bench. He is training hard. He is being professional, and he's still not good enough. And I think that Marcus Rashford going to Villa, okay, we can talk about that in a moment, but Casemiro still being here, but not good. I just think it's embarrassing, because he is the biggest earner at the football club. He is the one that's the biggest drain on us financially. And for the second transfer window in a row, we're desperate to move him on, and we can't. We really want... McTominay's not a Man United player because of Casemiro. People, I don't know whether people understand that. I think most of you do, but McTominay's not at Man United anymore because of Casemiro. We would not have sold Casemiro. We would not have sold McTominay if Casemiro had gone to Saudi in the summer. And it's happened again. Fortunately, we haven't lost anybody, but I think if Garnacho had been sold, it would have been because of Casemiro, and that's the danger of this player. He is such a liability financially that every transfer window that he stays causes us to be into a situation where we might have to do something drastic. And I don't know how that changes in the summer. I mean, have we got a player now that's just running his contract down for the next 2 years? is he just going to sit there earning 350 grand a week? It's a weird situation with Casemiro. It really is, because nobody wants him, says Cosmo, but we've got a 2-year deal with him and he's just sat there and he ain't good enough. Like, it's not like I look at some players and go, well, they could offer us something. He's not good enough. He's not mobile enough. He can't be used. We can't use Casemiro. So it's a real problem. It's a real problem. And I think United probably don't really have many solutions at the moment. And the worrying thing with me with Casemiro is that why would he go in the summer? He's probably still going to be here next season. Courtney says, one of our members, morning what do you think of Amorim's lack of backing? I already see people turning on the manager. Player FC is over and I'm loving it, says Courtney. I think that there will be a gradual turn against Amorim, certainly in the media, and I think certainly in our fan base as well. But I think the bigger problem for me, as we sit on this transfer deadline, and we'll be live at 2 o'clock from the studio with our normal transfer deadline show, and hopefully we will get some stuff going on, but it'll be an opportunity just to sit and reflect and converse all the way through to the closure of the transfer window, as we do every year. So look forward to joining that. But what I would signpost to you is that tomorrow, probably at 7 a.m, we're going to drop a video that's step 2 around the way this club is being run, and I think it's going to wake a lot of people up. I think a lot of people are going to be eyes open to what's actually going on at this football club again. And we need to stop living in the moment around, are we going to get Tel or not, and overreact, and then you get someone and then you don't react. We're too driven by the transfers, and there's a bigger picture at Manchester United that needs to sort of be spoken about. Like, you talk about the lack of backing for Amorim, and but you analyse some of the decisions that have been made in recent weeks and months, and there's a very sinister side to what's going on to Manchester United above the manager. And you want it to be competent, but it stinks of incompetence. Like, we spent a lot of money on Ten Hag. We then sacked Ten Hag. We spent a lot of money on bringing Amorim in, and then in his first transfer window, we're not prepared for it. So, as I said, we bring a manager in with a very distinctive style of play that a lot of our players will not be able to play. And then in his first transfer window, we're not really doing anything. And where is the money going to come from in the summer to do something if we're not in Europe? So I think we're in a really strange situation. And when you look at our January transfer window, yes, we've brought Dorgu in, and we may bring this Tel in on loan if we get lucky in the last few hours. But the big story for me of this transfer window is that we have loaned one of our best players to a Premier League rival. We have kept our biggest earner sat on his arse on the bench. And we mooted and toyed with the idea of selling one of our best young players to help out with PSR, which we are in trouble with because we keep having to pay debt, interest, every year. And that's the story of the January transfer window, really. You can mask it with Dorgu, or you can face up to the reality that our biggest earner sat on his arse draining us. One of our best young players was nearly sold. And our most high-profile player is now having a picture with a Premier League rival that is in the Champions League and fighting for the Champions League again. And you look at the trajectory of the football club and sort of what we're doing, and it is quite concerning when you think about it like that. In fact, it's very concerning when you think about it like that. So I think that there are bigger things going on at this football club. And look, let's talk about the Marcus Rashford loan deal. I think that in itself is it's quite concerning. Like, I know that I want to word it correctly, because there are still people out there writing eulogies for Marcus Rashford and how it's a disgrace that he's leaving the football club and it's not his fault and this, that and the other, because obviously that's what Player FC is. And you've got to respect that. People think differently to you at times. But I must admit, when we saw the pictures of him in a Villa training yesterday smiling, I mean, what price that when he plays against Spurs next weekend, he's sprinting around, working hard. I mean, that's going to be the hardest thing for me. It's going to be It's not the fact that I think he can score goals. It's not the fact that I don't think he's a good player. It's when he's sprinting around and running for, jumping for headers and this, that, and the other. I'm just going to be like, I'm sorry, but for 18 months, I don't care what anybody says, he hasn't done that in a Man United shirt. He's not been contesting 50-50 balls. He's not been sprinting back and everything like that. And if I see that on Sunday, I'm going to be like, why? Why is that? Why did it go so wrong, sort of thing? And why is he now doing it in a Villa shirt? Like, everyone's got a point to prove, but it wasn't like Ten Hag didn't give him multiple chances at Man United. It wasn't like Man United didn't give him multiple chances. So I think that, and obviously that will be relatively embarrassing for Manchester United. I get that. So it's just a weird situation around us at the moment. It's just very flat, and it's a very difficult job for Ruben Amorim, and I don't think that the club is really providing him with the platform to do it. Now, my hope is that they're sort of doing their typical wait for the summer, but I'm not convinced that the summer's going to get any better with where we're heading this season, which is, definitely going to be bottom half of the table and out of Europe. Antony didn't... A lot of people talking about Antony. I couldn't give a shit about Antony, mate. Like, there's people in our fan base that are weird. They've got some sort of Antony cult that they think he's good. He's fucking shit. He's absolute shit. Like, I don't have any time to talk about Antony because he's had the chances and he's shit. Like, honestly, are we gonna... Is this the Disney Channel? Like, Antony's shit. Like, oh, Antony got an assist. He had a shot for Real Betis in a league that probably suits him. Well done. He had more than enough chances in the Premier League. He can't use his right foot. He'd always shoot over the bar. He didn't create anything. He had his chance. He was here for 2 years. 2.5 years. There's no redemption arc for Antony, and there's no regret about getting rid of Antony. We spent £80 million on him and gave him over 100 grand a week, and he was shit for 2.5 years. Like, I don't give a toss if he's Betis' player of the year this year. There is nobody Ten Hag had him at Ajax, couldn't perform for him at Man United, and Amorim gave him chances as well. Like, if we genuinely think that we've made a mistake getting rid of Antony, go and support Betis, because you're just wasting times. You're just wasting everybody's time. It's not a grown-up conversation, is it? It's childish. Why are we playing 5 at the back? Says Sticks. Ahmad and Garnacho should be attacking. First form of defence. I think you have no idea, Mark, with how this formation works. Okay, I'm not reading anything else of yours again. Your first comment was shit, and your second one shit as well. Mate, if we play Garnacho and Ahmad at full out wide, we will get stuffed. We are not good enough defensively. That's why he's playing 5 at the back. You are right. He doesn't want to do that, and he didn't do it at Sporting, but he is playing Mazraoui and Dalot out there because our defence is not good enough. If it doesn't, it will get overrun. So, shows what you know about football. People forget so fast. Amorim said this will be painful. We are shit. Then people lose their head over a Palace loss, says Kay. Mark, surely Amorim in his introductory meeting with the owners was informed of how much they would back him in the first transfer window, says Alexander. I don't know, mate. I don't know. I mean, surely this, surely that. I don't know. I don't know what conversation took place. What I do know is that Amorim didn't want the job until the summer, and Man United said it's now or never. So maybe Amorim was foolish to take the job. Maybe they did say to him there's no money in January. But to be honest with you, based on a couple of comments from Amorim in the January transfer window, I don't think that's true, because he said at the start of the window that he wants players, and he said yesterday that he's desperate for players. So I don't think he's a man that's talking like he knew he wasn't going to get backed in the January transfer window. I think he's a guy that's been told by the club, we're trying to do stuff, but we can't do it. I think that's more likely. People are saying we're in for Delap, says Marshall. I've not heard anything about that, and I very much doubt it's not true. I would very much say it's not true. How are we going to buy Ipswich's main striker when they're trying to stay up and we haven't got any money? The Ashworth cock-up was the end of the January window, says Harvey Specter. Why are our targets always so public, says Patrick Lynch. Yes, I think that's a fair point. Thoughts on Antony's man of the match performance yesterday? I think if you're watching Antony play for Betis, you need to get a bloody life. There's only one problem, Space Oddie. Glazers, successful managers come here and become miserable. Miserable players go to other clubs and become successful, says Space Oddie. Well, there's a great comment yesterday, and it's very, very true. It doesn't matter how good you are or how good your boss is. If you work for an organisation that doesn't respect you, that is problematic and badly run, then that will trickle down to a lack of motivation no matter what. It's hard to get motivated when there's so much wrong going above you. Casemiro is clearly being forced out because of his wages. Still the best option to play in that pivot with Agate, and we saw that under Ruud, his class of '99. Mate, I don't know what it is about Ruud van Nistelrooy, but you might want to check out what's going on with Leicester. And I think what we saw in those Ruud van Nistelrooy games was very limited. You're talking about 2 games under Ruud van Nistelrooy with Casemiro. I'll tell you what, let's get Ruud back. Let's sack Amorim. Let's get Ruud back. Let's put Casemiro in the midfield, and I'll give it 2 weeks, and you'll be going, sorry, I'm an idiot, I'm wrong. I mean, Casemiro in the pivot for Man United. How many games over the last year have we seen that doesn't work? Did you remember last season? I mean, our midfield last season, it was like watching a cement bag in the midfield getting run past. It was absolutely embarrassing. We were conceding about 20 shots a game because we had no midfield. Casemiro is not the answer, mate, and he's not being forced out because of his wages. He just isn't good enough. It's as simple as that. Not good enough, overpaid, and symbolic of the culture at Manchester United that's been allowed to grow over the last 10 years. Ornstein hasn't said anything. He's just said something about Guehi, nothing about Manchester United. So I don't know why people are saying that. Mark, you know better than me on transfers. So how can Newcastle sell a player like Lewis Kelly and nobody for 20 million and we can't even sell anyone, says Callum. Because our reputation in the transfer window is absolutely shit. Amorim will have to get a tune out of Rasmus, says Harvey. Any chance for a Casemiro loan to someone desperate for a CDM, similar to the Rashford loan deal, says Shotgun Justice. Roma were very interested in Casemiro, as Richard Lewis said, but Roma are not wealthy. And the biggest problem is going to be, hello, I'll come to Roma, but I'm on 350k a week. And then Man United would say, yeah, we don't want to be paying £250,000 a week for Casemiro to go and play for Rome. It looks silly. So yeah, it's for me that's the big issue. Bye Robert Muston. Bye. Mark, just exactly what's been better since INEOS, says Tayi. And we'll loan Martial back at 10 p.m. tonight, says Kieran. Yesterday was a chance to put points on the board, says Enjoy Writing. And Martinez is out for the season. That's coming in. I mean, that's not breaking news. I mean, bloody hell. If it's raining outside, I don't need a weatherman to tell me it's raining. How many people were carrying that stretcher? How strapped up was his leg? The guy was crying his eyes out. It's February the 1st. The season ends in 4 months. I think we know he's out for the season. And what I want to know is he back before Christmas? I knew he was out for the season as soon as he was being stretchered off. But we'll have to wait a few days to find out when they do the scans, etc. Is an Artovich available? I bet they've asked, says Gaz. If a striker is not signed, INEOS have failed Ruben Amorim. I genuinely feel sorry for him, says Rohil. Thank you very much. Hayden says, what were your thoughts on Antony? He looked decent. I don't think he played like that for us. I hope he reaches his potential. As I said, I think he was absolute shit for us for 2.5 years. And if he goes and plays well elsewhere, that's on him. It's not on us. He's had 2 different managers. He's had loads of opportunities and he was absolute shit. So if he's playing well for Betis, I think he needs to look at himself. I don't think you can blame Amorim or Ten Hag. They're different managers with different ideas, and he couldn't perform in a Man United shirt. So what is it? You don't have the balls or the confidence to produce it in the Premier League, but you can do it in a smaller club in a different league. I mean, what justification is there for Antony suddenly starting to play well if he plays well? You can't blame it on one manager. There's 2 different managers. Loads of games that he's been given. Joe Harty says, I've purchased the show tickets, Mark. Great present as it falls on my birthday. Love being part of this community. I believe we will turn things around. Well, yeah, looking forward to the show. Absolutely good, fantastic, Joe. Thank you very much for that. Big up the community. I believe we will turn things around. I just think there's I might be the only one. Maybe everybody else feels a bit differently, but I'm sure you can sense that I'm massively pissed off this morning. I tend to feel like this after a shit Man United performance anyway. And then the fact that it's transfer deadline day and it's been an absolute shambles just adds to that. So I like that Joe says, I believe things will turn around. I said this 2 years ago under Ten Hag, and I'll say it again now, and it was in January. We may not have hit the bottom of the barrel. And that is a horrible thing to have to say when we are where we are in the league, but we may not have hit the bottom of the barrel. I really am concerned that if we do not win the Europa League and we aren't in Europe next year, that is going to limit what we can spend massively. It's going to lead to itchy feet for some players who will want to play in European football. And I think that things could get worse from this point. I do. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that INEOS, who at Nice sacked a lot of managers, sack Amorim? Is it beyond the realms of possibility that in a year's time, Gareth Southgate's in charge and we're a mid-table team with no European football? I know that sounds horrible, but I don't know why everybody keeps talking about how many more years till we win the league. I mean, how many more years until we're bankrupt and out of business? I mean, you could almost throw that one in as well. I don't ever think Man United would go bankrupt, by the way, and I don't think we'd get relegated. But I didn't think that we would be consistently. We've been in the bottom half of the table for months. I never thought, and the trouble is, when standards lower, you don't necessarily notice them. You don't necessarily notice. If I've got a pint of milk in the fridge at work and I pour myself a cup of coffee and there's about 3/4 of that milk left, you can probably nick my milk and I won't notice if you just take a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And I feel like with Man United, that's exactly what's happening here. We're just gradually lowering the standards and we are used to it because it's gradually happening. But I never thought in a million years that I would see Manchester United in the bottom half of the table for months. Like, definitively a bottom half table side. And that's what we are at the moment. So don't tell me things couldn't get worse. And I love the fact that people are optimistic that things will get better. But if I said to you, why are things going to get better? You can only tell me one thing. Ruben Amorim. Well, he ain't the CEO. He ain't the owner. And he's as vulnerable as anybody. So I'm worried. I am worried. I want to be optimistic, but I am genuinely worried about the trajectory of this football club and where we are heading. And I'm telling you now, the video we're putting out tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock might sharpen a few more minds. As we said last week, we did a video, step 1, about PSR and the fact that debt repayment interests go against us on PSR. So the debt that the Glazers have put on this club severely hinders our ability to buy players. It's a fact. Nobody really wants to talk about, but it's a fact. Step 2 tomorrow, you'll see something else that massively hinders the football club. And these conversations should be out there. There are fan groups out there that have organised protests fantastically well. They should be unearthing some of the stuff that's going to come out. And it needs to be in the mainstream. It needs to be throughout the fan base what's actually going on behind the scenes with this football club, because it will blow the doors off some of it. Some of the stuff that, I mean, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. But as Rob Always United says, I don't think we've hit rock bottom yet. Yeah, you might be right. Jake M says, definitely managed decline. Used to spend when Champions League was threatened. It's like they're getting what they can while they can. No urgency to improve, says Jake M. Well, look, we're still working on some of it, and some of the information we've had come through is absolutely amazing. But it sort of leads you to believe that I just think with every passing day, INEOS are a front to the Glazers. I never thought it, but I actually think they are a front to the Glazers. When some of the stuff you see and you get told, it's like, but that happened 4 years ago. So why are we still doing it now? But we used to do that, so why are we doing it now? But I thought INEOS came up with that idea. No, Glazers did. And it's like, okay, so what is INEOS's role then? Are they just literally 25% cash grab with the Glazers? Some of the stuff is really weird, but that's for tomorrow. What does it take to start a Glinios out movement, says Jesse? It takes a fucking United fan base, mate. I mean, you know, Ruben Amorim's removed Marcus Rashford, and that's done him massive harm with some people in our fan base because they can't deal with the fact that Rashford's been moved out of the club. It's like divisive fan base. Like everyone needs to get collective on what's best for Manchester United. Amorim's only got one new player, says Keel. I can't watch this team sober. It's depressing, says NKSO. Should we start questioning Martinez's injuries, says JSD Plays. Picking up more, might need to look at a new centre-back like Iheanacho in the summer. I'm really concerned about Martinez. I'm glad that you said it, JSD Plays, because I can't even JSD Plays because I feel it's sort of kicking a guy when he's down. But I sort of said it on the watch along yesterday. I think that we need to replace Martinez, says Angel Bomb. I think that basically is what I think that's the conversation that needs to be had. I mean, whether we should be having it on transfer deadline day, I don't know. But Martinez is 28 next. He's basically in the last 2 years probably missed 50% of the last 2 years, maybe more. And he's definitely going to miss most of this year. So over the last 3 years, by the time we hit January next year, if you look at Martinez's last 3 years, he's going to be looking at maybe 60, 70% of it missed through injuries. That's not sustainable. Like, it's not Mason Mount's fault, but he is an issue. And Martinez could be stepping into that world. He's had 3 separate injuries now. He had the metatarsal, which he missed nearly a year. He had a knee injury last February where he missed 2 months. And now he's got another knee injury where he's going to be out for months. It's bad luck. A lot of his injuries are just bad luck. You look at the way he did his knee yesterday. You look at the way he did his metatarsal. It's really bad luck. But the way he plays the game, he's very physical as well. And I don't think at 28, coming back from this injury, you're going to look at him and go, he's a reliable player that we can build the team around. So we need to start bringing players in, unfortunately. Yeah, we do. You're right, we do. But my main concern with Martinez at the moment is for him and his career, because I think it's there's no doubt we're going to miss the character. There's no doubt we're going to miss the player. He's got the right mentality, but unfortunately he's not going to be fit. Yeah, somebody just said the Manchester Evening News fear that Martinez is out for at least the remainder of the season. I mean that's just that's cutting edge journalism, isn't it? I mean, where would we be without the Manchester Evening News telling us that? I mean, God, there's a fear that Martinez might be out for the end of the season. What? Why? I thought him crying as he was being carried off by 7 people with his knee in a brace. I thought he'd be back for Leicester. I mean, come on. Out for the season, out for the year. I'd be very surprised if he plays again before Christmas. I've played the game. We've all bloody played the game. We know. I think it's going to be a very long time before he comes back. I think it's the sort of injury that at that age as well, he doesn't deserve it as well, but, you know. Enjoy Writing says, tomorrow is another day, Mark. It's tough right now. What's happening with transfers, Mark? I'm late. Yeah, I think that it's tell or nothing incoming, and it needs to happen, but Bayern Munich hold all the cards, and we don't have a lot of money. Outgoings-wise, I don't really see anything happening. I think with the Martinez injury, we'll look at keeping Malacia because he's left-footed. And I think Casemiro is not going anywhere. So I think it might be quite a quiet transfer deadline day for Man United unless we can turn the Tel deal around or there is something really desperate that we can do in the last few hours. And when I talk about desperate, I mean, somebody just said Taremi on loan. I don't know. Look, it's better than nothing, but it's still desperate. I think that's what is fair to say, isn't it? Would you buy Greenwood back to solve the striker problem, says Kenzo? I mean, I don't know whether you're a troll or a moron or just trying to help, but it's not going to happen, is it? So you may as well have said, why don't we go and get Delap from Ipswich? Why don't we get Isak on loan? Like, there's zero chance of it happening. So I've wasted enough breath on it. Let's sell Luke Shaw and Mount before Leacher, says Ketz. And I don't think we'll be selling Martinez, mate. The trouble with an injury-prone player is that you can't sell them. Only empty seats will force a sale, says Pete. I don't think there's a sale that's going to happen, mate. I think we figured out why the Glazers didn't want to leave. All I'll say is watch the video tomorrow. It's all starting to make sense. Let's just put it that way. And it's got nothing, all it's got to do with is another cash grab. And look, there's a lot of stuff out there about the Glazers. I would recommend, actually, if you're interested in it, very good book. It's called The World's Biggest Cash Machine, Manchester United, the Glazers and the Struggle for Football. So there's a very good YouTube video about the Glazers at the moment. We've got a good video coming out tomorrow around the Glazers, and all I'll ever say about the Glazers is that if you could buy something that was massively profitable and never pay for it, would you do it? They ripped the soul out of our football club with one of the most genius bits of business that's ever happened in sporting history. They took the biggest football club in England that was making loads of profit. They bought it on debt. They serviced the debt with our profits. They never put a pound in, and they have made, well, billions. They've had 1.3 billion off INEOS, and they still own the football club. And they're going to make more. And why they valued Man United at 6 billion, I completely understand now. I know exactly why they're valuing us at 6 billion. And I know exactly why they think they can get it up to 10 billion. And it's got nothing to do with the TV deal, and it's got nothing to do with the Super League. This is a cash grab. They've already cash grabbed us for 20 years, and they've got another plan for the next 10. And they're going to make a lot of money. A lot of money. Let us sell dire situation. Everything needs to go right in the summer, otherwise we're screwed. Radcliffe has realised how bad the Glazers are. He wasn't expecting this, says Rashid. I wouldn't separate Sir Jim Radcliffe and the Glazers, mate. That's just a ploy by people to make you think that one element is good and one element is bad. They work together every single day. They get on. There is no hidden agenda. Watch the video tomorrow morning, right? Everything you think about what you think is just going to get completely blown away. This has been a long time in the making, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they're all working together on it. Fergie and his horses, says Leo. You're speaking to the wrong person about Sir Alex, because I find it very hard to say anything negative about Sir Alex, but obviously there was a pathway to Glazer ownership that started because of a horse and Sir Alex Ferguson. Only empty seats will force a sale, says Pete Phillips. The worry for me is how long before the INEOS starts getting into more debt to maintain the marketability by signing big name players to sell shirts, says Urel. I think people who are saying in the summer, it needs to be a big summer for Manchester United. I think people who are saying that, I don't think it will be a big summer if we're not in Europe. I think if we're not in Europe, we will sell Garnacho or Mainu, and that will help us spend some money. But is that a step backwards to try and go forwards? We will have to pay one way or another if we are not in Europe in the summer. I think we have to stop burying our heads in the sand with PSR and FFP. Very, very close this transfer window to selling Garnacho, simply because we needed to get some money into the club. Very, very close indeed. In the summer, not being in Europe will cost us 50 million quid. I think. We've got to find that back. that will be calculated into our earnings for next year, and it's off. The only way you can cover that is by bringing £50 million in. And the only way you're going to do that is by selling a player. So not being in Europe at the moment, what would you say the percentage chance that we're not in Europe next season? We're not doing it through the league. Forget about it. So you've either got to win the FA Cup or win the Europa League. Winning the FA Cup, I think it's very difficult because of who's left in it. Arsenal, Liverpool. No, Arsenal aren't in it. Man City, Liverpool. There's teams that could knock us out. Europa League's probably easier, but are we good enough to win that? If we're not in Europe or next year, I don't know what this good summer transfer window is you're talking about. And also, who's going to want to come to Man United? What good players are we going to sign? So I can see oblivion in the summer if we're not in Europe, because things will have to get worse again. And you can't compete against what's going to be. Look, I already know from conversations away from United that this is going to be one of the most competitive summer transfer windows in Premier League history. Arsenal will be going again to try and win the league. Liverpool are going to have to go again to try and maintain the league. Man City are going to go again because they want to win back the league. Chelsea are always going to try and go to the next level. That's 4 clubs straight away that are just going to be going for it. Then you've got the Newcastles, the Aston Villas, and the Tottenhams that will want to be in the race for top 5 as well. So that's 7 clubs in a better position than us already, and all of them will be in Europe. Maybe not Tottenham. So it's all right going where Manchester United come and play for us, but Chelsea are in the Champions League, and I think they might fight for the title. So it's going to be very difficult. Remember Ratcliffe's first interview? He said the Glazers were lovely people. The writing was on the wall then. Yeah, but you know what, Methane Man? I feel that some people in our fan base created this propaganda around the Glazers and INEOS and sort of shepherded people away from wanting the Glazers out, and they're still at it now. They won't wake up and smell the coffee, or they know the smell of the coffee and they're doing it on purpose. But I don't look, from what I know and what you're all going to know very soon, I don't think the Glazers are going anywhere. Not 5 years, not 10 years, not 20 years. You know when you're in a house that you like and you just don't ever think you're going to leave it, and even when you die, well, it doesn't really matter then, but you expect your family to keep it. I genuinely, you know, this sale of Man United, I think we got absolutely conned. I don't think it was ever about a sale. It was about, we need somebody in the short term to come in and help us with a bit of an injection, and then we'll work together for the next however long. I don't think they ever wanted to sell the football club. I just think they wanted a certain type of people to come in and help. And that's what they've got. That sale was a load of bollocks. Whether it's Qatar, Elon Musk, or anybody else, they were never selling the club. I think they'd have took Qatar on 25%, like they did Sir Jim. I think they'd have took Elon Musk on 25%. But anybody who wanted the club themselves was never getting it. Never in a million years. They were never, ever going to do what they were going to do, what they've done. And, well, look, that's for tomorrow. We've got to get through the transfer window first. But it'll become clear. It'll become very, very clear. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime. It's so obvious what the Glazers did, says Zion. Like the Dragons' Den, they wanted expertise and a new front man. The Qataris were used for market cap evaluation. You know what? I agree with that theory. I really do. I really, really do. When you know what you know, this started in 2018. INEOS weren't even here. This Glazer plan started in 2018. I'll tell you why tomorrow. But it started in 2018. They only, what was it, 2024, end of 2023? 5 years before. 5 years before. Thoughts on Rashford mentioning multiple clubs approaching him in his Villa post? Wasn't really needed in my opinion when he was actually waiting for Barca. No lies detected on Rashford. I mean, he was approached by a lot of clubs. Definitely AC Milan, Dortmund were interested, Como, Galatasaray. So he was approached by a lot of clubs. I don't really care or have an issue with Rashford on that. I want him to do well at Aston Villa. But I dropped that seed there. When Rashford does well at Villa, if he does well at Villa, you will get a lot of United fans going, oh, look. But can we just screw our head on a minute and have a think? If Marcus Rashford starts running around and trying really hard at Aston Villa and scoring goals, is that not the Rashford we've been waiting for 18 months that we know exists? And the question cannot be, why is he doing it at Villa? And why is he not doing it at Manchester United? Because he had the opportunities to do it at Manchester United. It's not like Amorim dropped him from the start. It's not like Ten Hag didn't pick him every week. He was given the trust and opportunities to do it, and he didn't do it. So if he goes and does it at Villa, you can't blame Amorim or Ten Hag, because they did give him the opportunities, but for some reason he couldn't do it. So if he does it at Villa, maybe that's exactly what he's talking about psychologically having a fresh new challenge. It happens with a lot of players. I mean, look, Jadon Sancho was in his replies, wasn't he, saying he's back? I mean, it's his mate, isn't it? Sancho couldn't deal with Man United either. So maybe it's just that change of scenery. I don't know, but I can't be dealing with, we made a mistake letting Rashford go, because he definitely has had the opportunities and the chances, and maybe it just comes back to the fact that the club is badly run. And maybe Aston Villa will be a better run club and he'll feel happier there. I don't know. But, I mean, look, I want him to do well. I think it's better for everybody else. Robert McCormack says, Rashford had to go. I'm very sad because he's our best player and we were so much worse without him, but 100% was best for all he went. I wish him well. Thank you very much, Robert. Glazers are using Radcliffe as a Trojan horse to get through the Glazer out protest, says TJ. I like that analogy, I do. Are there any names floating around in terms of last-minute panic signings, says Kieran? I like this question. I would say it's Tel or nothing. Tel or nothing. And maybe Leon Bailey. I don't know what happened with that Dorgeles, actually. I'm just trying to think. With Man United, we never do a deal that's out there. So I'm thinking about who we've been linked to in the last couple of weeks that could be resurrected. I don't know what happened with that Dorgeles at Salzburg, because he's ready to go. He's 22. Yeah, but I don't know. And Kunku's been ruled out, like a whole lot has said. Yeah, that's been ruled out already. Thank you, Elliot Taylor. Can you wish me a happy birthday? I'm 23, says Darren Snedden. Happy birthday, Darren. Can we get a happy birthday for Darren? Callum says, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe bought his percentage, could he not have bought less and used some to pay the debt off? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say it, but let's be honest about it. Looked like he did his ACL. That puts him out until at least Christmas, says Shane B on Martinez. Darren Snedden's a new member of the Members Club. Thank you very much. Patrick Lynch says, what happened to Dorgeles? Suddenly went quiet. Need to decide how we want to score and commit to it, says Keel Robinson. And JE says, United will not have sustained success until the Glazers sell the club. Plain and simple. It's about the club's financial structure. Until they get that the price they want, it's mediocrity at best. Thank you very much, JA. Thank you very much. Andy Atherton says, Mark, I agree with most of your opinions, but the Casemiro situation is nowhere near as bad as Rashford. At least he turns up, trains hard and helps the young players. Rashford offers nothing at all. I don't disagree with that, Andy. What I'm offering up is the alternative that Rashford wasn't in the team because he wasn't training well and he fell out with the manager. Casemiro's not in the team because he's not good enough. Casemiro is turning up to training. Casemiro is tweeting, come on Man United. Casemiro is talking to the young players. So Casemiro is actually trying and being professional, but he still can't get in the team. Is that worse than Rashford, who wasn't in the team because he's not being professional? I think if Rashford was doing what Casemiro did, he'd be good enough to be in the team. Casemiro's applying himself and still isn't good enough. And yet we're paying him 350 grand a week. And that is embarrassing. I'm not questioning Casemiro's attitude or anything like that. I'm questioning his ability, and that is embarrassing. Oh God, I apologise for being a bit snappy. I am just tired of this, and I'm sitting on something that you don't know yet as well. And I've got to be honest, for the last few days, it's been a strain. It really has. It's depressing information, and we'll share it with you, of course, as soon as the transfer window is closed, because I'm not having it going out in the transfer window when people are thinking about, oh look, Tel to United. It needs to be clear heads and clear thought and generate conversation, because there's a lot of alleyways to it. There has been an update just coming in from Fabrizio. Let's have a look what he says. At this time, deadline day, Aston Villa have stopped talks for Disasi. Considering different options. Disasi agreed terms with Villa last week, but Chelsea still request higher fee. Chelsea accepted Spurs' bid for Disasi up to the player. Oh, mate, as long as we don't move in for him, I'll be very happy. Yeah. I don't want Disasi anywhere near United. Anyway, I'm sure we're going to be back very soon, live with you. Hopefully we get some developments around Tel. I think it's about the only thing that we could rescue that's relatively positive. Absolute legends. We'll be in it together. Don't worry. We are live from 2 o'clock. Transfer deadline day show. Tradition on the United stand. And obviously I'll be kicking in at times as well. But thanks everyone for tuning in. And trust me, the video we've got coming out tomorrow morning is going to be very interesting to get your teeth into. But that's for tomorrow. Today, let's see if we can get some business done. Kieran says, need to take the Van Persie approach and stick 12 men on. Says Kieran. And Mark, was it Old Trafford yesterday? All players except Delo and Amorim just walked past kids waiting hours to get autographs. Ignorant players, says FPL Fozzie. Bring on the kids. Nothing to lose now, says Dave Lees. Thank you very much. We've lost that. We've lost our identity, you know. How can you blame play? How can you set standards like that, right? We will do autographs with all the kids. We will, you know, be interconnected with our fans. How can you set that standard when we've had owners for 20 years who don't acknowledge their fans? I mean, seriously, how can you blame players and staff for not interacting with fans when we've got an ownership that doesn't interact with fans and is soulless? We've lost the soul of this football club. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you in a little bit.